Today let's talk about error checking that you add to your scripts. In order to know that a script is doing what you think it's doing, it's necessary to add error checks. And there's a number of different types of error checks that RPT allows you. For example, response code error checks. And you can check response codes to see if they're exactly what was recorded, or they have a relaxed mode where if a response code is substitutable for another one, then it will treat it as okay. For example, you can use relaxed error checking if you're using RPT's browser cache emulation, because then sometimes instead of getting a 200 response code, you'll get a not modified response code, and RPT will treat those as equivalent. Same thing with a redirect. If you don't care that your pages get redirect, you can use relaxed error checking on those pages. We typically use exact error checks because of the way we're doing our tests. We want to catch anything that's not behaving as expected. Now, as far as response code error checks, you can set up your workspace to insert those error checks automatically when a script is generated. Another type of error checks is content verification. Is the content of the page what you expected it to be? And so what you want to do there is you want to check enough of the content on the page so that you're sure the full page has arrived. For example, with Portal, we have different portlets, so you can check some of the content of each portlet to make sure every portlet's on the page. One thing to watch out for is that when you're checking more than one item on a page, make sure you change the default error check to succeeds if all are present. Now, the default is succeed if any are present, which is an OR check, and it's not very thorough. And with this content verification checking, along with the other checks, it allows RPT to be a very good functional or system test tool as well as performance test tool, because you can check to make sure the pages are behaving exactly the way you want to. There's also title verifications and size verifications. The easiest way to get response code verifications into your test is to set a workspace option to automatically insert response code checks. So that would be under Window, Preferences, Test Generation, HTTP test generation. And here you can set it to automatically insert checks for HTTP return code. And you can set whether you want it relaxed or exact. I set it to exact. You can also set it to check for the titles automatically on pages with titles. And the response code size, and since response codes sizes are going to vary, it lets you have some slack in there by setting a percentage delta from the recorded size. So I have set that before I recorded this Google test, and you can see that on the responses, response code verifications have been inserted on every one of them, and they're exact checks. So that just saves a lot of time. Now if you forget to do that and you want to set the return codes afterwards, you can highlight all the pages you want to have checks on, and then you could say enable response code VPs. Well, I can't enable them here because I've already got them enabled, but if I hadn't enabled them, that would be available as an option here, and you could set it after the fact, after the recording. Another thing you'll want to do is insert content verification checks. And the way that you do that is you click on the response. I'm going to do it for this Google homepage. And what you do is you look at what the page looks like, and you can see in the protocol data view under the browser what the page looks like to the user. Anyway, that's what the page looks like to the user. And I see there's an I'm feeling lucky button. So let's look at what the content looks like. Let's see how that looks in the page, and what I'll do is I'll just try to find feeling lucky in the content to see what it looks like. Input value is I'm feeling lucky. So I can use that string as a content verification point. Just copy it. Now I'm going to go to the request and say verification point, enable content verification point. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. And now I haven't defined any strings yet, so I have to define a new string. This dialog is a little bit tricky as you're defining new strings. You type the text here. You can make it case sensitive if you want, and you can make it a regular expression if you want. But what you really need to do is change the verification to pass as if all strings are found. The default is dangerous. Okay, so that clicked OK. It still has not selected it to add to this. You check it here. You say enable, and that will add that content check. If you look at it, you can see there that feeling lucky, case sensitive, not a regular expression. And I'm going to save it. All right, for completeness, let me recommend that you check more than one thing on a page. So I'll show you how to do that. Let's add to this content verification point. To do that, let's look at what the browser sees. And I see it says images here. So I could just copy that string. I'm pretty sure that that will be adequate. Now, you would say, you look at the existing content verification point, say new string, say new string here, and you see that it remembers what I entered before. So a workspace will remember all the user-defined strings that you check for. Makes it easier if you need to check for them on more than one page. So paste. And I'm going to say not case sensitive, not regular expression. I'm not going to limit where it's looking. I'll say OK. That does not add the string yet. That adds it to the workspace, but I haven't selected it for this page. Check it here and say close. And now it's checking for images and feeling lucky. In summary, there's a number of types of error checks: response codes, content, title, size, and you should use as many of those as is relevant for your environment. And one thing to watch out for is if you do content verification, make sure that you set it up so that it succeeds if all are present.